Did I mention the other day that I added a feature where it can start recording automatically?
You mentioned, yes.
Yes, I think I did. Yeah.
So I know, I think we mentioned this already. Can you see that I'm recording or not?
No, not yet.
Right.
Not yet. That's coming up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be nice as well. So you can be like, guys.
Yeah. So right now, what I have for the host is a message that comes up when I hit record as the host. It pops a little notification alert that says, not you're recording locally now. Remind your guest or co-host to also start recording locally.
Yeah.
But I have the other feature. I don't think it's live yet. Otherwise, I would have turned it on, where as soon as you join the studio, it starts recording locally.
Record, yeah. I love that. I have that too. It's like, I'm not sure if I've actually finished that or enabled it. I know I worked on it. I don't know what the status of it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's big.
So, but also before we get started, I have a little bit of bad news to share. So, remember last time when I was telling you that I worked on the feature where when I delete something through the UI, I delete it from the database. Then I also have to go out to the cloud and delete things in the cloud.
Right, exactly.
And so I was syncing that up. And user error, I was cleaning things up on S3.
What did you delete?
And I deleted our second session.
Oh, no.
And I even deleted the first. I deleted all of them, but luckily, I had downloaded the recordings from the first one.
Okay, right.
So I have that from the first one. And then the third one, which is our last one, that happened after the fact.
Right. Okay.
So the one that is gone is our second session where we actually recorded the whole thing.
All right. Well, if it's any consolation, I can't remember what the hell we talked about. So, and I repeat myself a lot. So I can imagine.
I was so bummed out. I was cleaning things up and I wanted to clear everything from the cloud. I tested the UI and I deleted everything through the UI and everything was fine. And then there were a bunch of other files still left on S3 from other recordings that I've done and stuff. That was just a lot of tests, basically. Yeah. And since I onboarded some people already, I didn't want to leave a bunch of stuff there because then later it's hard to synchronize and reconcile what's real and what's not, Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, no, you don't want like old test stuff hanging around after you've kind of gone to production, right?
Exactly. So I wiped everything out and I was just thinking, okay, I onboarded these people. I checked who has logged in. When was the last time they logged on? Have they created any recordings? And I checked all of that for all the people that I have onboarded to make sure I didn't. But I didn't check myself. I checked all of them, but not mine, and consequently ours.
But,
and so,
as I said, I'm kind of like, it's not the end of the world. I mean, especially since, as I said, I'm conscious I don't want to get too far like out of sync with what we're actually doing on a day-to-day basis kind of thing. So, even if let's say, for instance, that is published in like 3 weeks' time, it's like the stuff we're talking about, especially since, we're both kind of on the edge of almost launching and getting new users. We don't want to get like too far out of sync anyway. So, think of it as a warm-up, right?
Yeah.
No big deal.
That's true.
So it's interesting you say that because I set up obviously like production database and stuff for myself, and so I had hanging around test users and a few people that have been using it like back months ago when I first started playing it, and I'm like, okay, now how does this feel to you? How's this idea? So I had a bunch of people use it then, and they created stuff, and I'm like, what, the database has changed so much since then, and it's like there's migrations, there's stuff now which are required. Like for instance, I ask for a name and a full name because I don't want to presume that the word you put first is your first name, especially since Japanese, it doesn't work like that, and people go by different names anyway. So especially with it being a work thing, I ask for a full name and a name you want to be referred to, a nickname.
Yeah. Or like a nickname.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my case, it would just be Alan because it's how people refer to me, but. But of course, I didn't have that when I started having users on the system, so they're all now false in the database, as in that because the default Postgres Ecto migration, if there's a now required string, it'll just do a toString onto it and it was coming up as false. So they're now all just called false in the database. And I'm like, you know what? Do I even bother trying to fix this, or I just say, no, you know what? We have a new database anyway. And so nothing, you knew that was just a playground. There's nothing in there anyway. So the database
Everyone's called false.
Exactly. I mean, their full name was fine, but yeah, everyone else, their nickname was just false. And you're like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So again, they were all test users, and you know they're all friends anyway. So it's like, yeah, they knew it was just a test idea anyway. So
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, those things you added, they ain't there anymore.
Oh man. All right. Well, yeah. So do you want to get started and record this intro thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do we start? We talk about who we are and what our products are.
Let's do it.
All right. So yeah, Mario Rodriguez, and I'm a software engineer currently in California. And I'm working on this. Wait, did I say that right? Okay, let me start again. All right, let's try it again. So I'm Mario Rodriguez. I'm a software engineer in California, and I'm working on this tool that I call FusionCast, which is what we're using to record this episode. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun working on it. I've been developing it for about a year, a little over a year now. And I'm just finally getting to the point where I'm opening it up for private beta.
Okay, one sentence. What does it do? We're using it to record this podcast episode, but how?
All right, the elevator pitch. So FusionCast is a remote podcast recording platform that allows hosts to connect and record with remote guests or co-hosts through the browser. So it's a browser-based application. And it has lots of built-in features.
So the obvious question everybody's going to want to know is, why not Skype? What does it do that I can't just do by opening Zoom and hitting record button?
Yeah, that's right. So these tools like Skype or Google Hangouts and Zoom and all those are pretty general, pretty generic type tools, mainly for communication. They're not really intended for recording high quality audio. And as a podcaster, podcasters want high quality audio, and nowadays also even high quality video, because they're publishing their podcast on video platforms as well. So with tools like Zoom or any of those generic tools, you don't get that high quality audio. You get compressed audio through the network, because they're not really designed for that. It's just the thing. Recording is just an add-on.
Right. As a listener, it's so much better experience when someone's actually recorded double-ended audio, right, as opposed to over Zoom. And it's like, it raises stress levels of listening. It just makes everything so much more pleasant and almost like transparent when the audio is so much better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And the other thing about some of these tools like Zoom, for example, is that you have to download and install the app locally, right? So as a podcaster who has remote guests, coming into the show to record, you want to remove as much friction as possible. You don't want to have to ask your guests to download this app, and although some might already have. But if it's a popular app,
but those are two options, right? It's either you go through a lot of pain having them to set up like some local recording system and then running Skype or Zoom in conjunction with that, or you deal with this crappy Zoom recording, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not ideal to record a podcast with a generic tool like that. And so a browser-based tool like FusionCast leverage the browser capabilities so that you can connect via a link easily with your guests or co-hosts. There's no software to download and install or any of that. It's super easy to connect.
Click on the link and then it records. And
so you end up with
So basically, as the end user for this, so yeah, we've been using this to record these shows. So the idea is, I click on the link and I let in the room and just hit record, and so you get a copy of my local recording, right? So whatever while we're speaking, it records my local audio in high quality. Then my video, those get uploaded, and you get access to those directly without any action on me as the guest to the podcast's part, right?
Exactly, which makes it super convenient because you don't have to wait for files to download and then share files and all of that
Exactly,
because it all
yeah.
happens automatically.
Wait for
Uh,
either iCloud syncing to finally actually get around to syncing the files, or like pay for Dropbox, right?
yeah, yeah,
And then someone loads the wrong
and these
file, and
yeah, and the thing is, these files are pretty
yeah,
large files.
exactly.
The files that we generate are, WAV format for audio and MP4 for video, and the WAV format alone generates, pretty huge files. So one of the features that FusionCast has is that it uploads continuously as it records. It's automatically uploading to the cloud, so that at the end of the recording, once you hit stop, it just has to upload the last few
Right. It's
seconds
already recorded,
of
like 99% of it. It's just the last few seconds have to finish, and then that's it. Everything's
yep,
already there. So it
yep,
is, as I say, as the user, it's transparent. It's like speaking on Zoom, but you end up with a much higher quality final result, right? And something
exactly.
that editing is going to make a whole lot easier because you have independent tracks for everybody on the call, right? It's not, you don't have one mashed up call that's, when a truck goes past outside for somebody, if they're not speaking, it's easy enough for you to just edit that out. Whereas if it was on one single track, you're basically got to live with it, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's another disadvantage of some of these other tools. So FusionCast records separate tracks, like you mentioned, video track just with video and audio track just audio for everyone in the session. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun, but also very challenging for me to build it. I've been a developer for a long time, but I never developed an application like this that involves video and audio and recording and all that. And it's been interesting. I've learned a lot by just
Understatement, right?
researching and yeah. Started by doing some research and experimenting and then just getting little bits done here and there and just building upon that, and just little by little I got to a point where I thought maybe I can pull this off and
It's funny,
and
isn't it?
build
Yeah,
build something that's useful.
I mean, it's funny how you kind of, when you start off, you're like, maybe this is an idea, maybe I can either write that, or maybe other people will find it useful. And there becomes a point when you're like, oh, actually I can do this. And
Yeah,
oh, hold on, this
yeah,
is actually useful, right? And it feels like everything suddenly becomes a lot more serious. Or yeah, up until then
yeah.
it's like, I'm not even sure if I can actually make this work, right?
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, it's been a lot of ups and downs. But now, as of a few weeks ago, I was able to start onboarding some people in the private beta phase so that somebody else gets to use it and provide me some feedback, hopefully. And they have actually already during the onboarding sessions while I'm giving the demo, people have already provided some amazing feedback.
It becomes a tricky point now
And
where you have to walk that fine line between how much of those are like, oh my god, I can't release until that's ready, or and okay, that's cool, and I can build that afterwards, right? So you just gotta
yeah.
be tough on yourself in terms of knowing what to do with that feedback, right?
Yeah, totally. And some of the feedback is also, something interesting happens when a user tells you what they want or what they would like the product to do. And sometimes what they want it may not be exactly the way they describe it or the way they want it, but you can achieve the same goal of what they really
Right.
want
You have
plain.
to
You know
learn
what I mean?
to listen to what the problem they're describing without listening to their solution, right? There's definitely
Sometimes
a skill that comes with experience that you're like, I know what you're telling me, but that's not how we're going to solve it.
yeah,
You need to
exactly.
understand a little bit deeper than what they're actually explaining, right?
That's the great way to put it. And I forget what feature in particular it was that we're talking about. But yeah, it's interesting just filtering that out and just trying to come up with the solutions to address their needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's pretty cool. I love it. I love developing products because I enjoy creating something that can be useful to someone and that helps them, in some way in their lives.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's been a great experience.
Cool. No, I'm the same way. It's kind of, I'm not a very academic developer in terms of, it has to solve a problem rather than be clever.
Yeah.
I'm much more excited and much more. I just enjoy it a whole lot more when I'm building something that actually helps make somebody's job or their life or just something more enjoyable, more fun. From an academic, making something, if it performs better, that's good, as long as it has an improvement on their actual life. If it just, is for an academic context, I just don't find that interesting. So definitely product is a bit which makes me do this.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
So Alan, tell me about your product. So, well, first tell us who you are.
So my name is Alan Bradburn. I'm from the UK. I currently live in Japan and have lived here for about 4 years. So I'm not in Tokyo before. The assumption is that I must live in Tokyo if I live in Japan. I don't. I live down in the south in this little city called Fukuoka. And I started developing this product about a year ago, and it was something completely different. The idea was around about like studying as a resident in Japan. Studying Japanese is a constant in your life, right? And so I was toying with ideas around how to make me accountable in my studying and make it just easier and to stay on top of it. And that kind of morphed into work-related tool. And around about end of last summer, I realized that what I was building was actually much more useful in a work context than in a personal self-study context. So I had a big rethink, and I started developing what is now called .plan.io. And it's a tool to let team members in an office, or especially remotely, it works very well remotely, share what they did for the day. So effectively, it's like a shared to-do list, as in what you can publish what you've done. So in the morning, you can effectively create a list of things that you plan to do for the day. And the idea is these things can be go to the post office or have a meeting. They can be, I've got a call with somebody, I need to work on this thing. So it's a very high level. It's not like a project management tool. It's not, GitHub or issues or a bug tracker. It's the idea is to allow you to share what you've achieved. So you can go through and you say, I did these things, I got them done, I'm still working on this. So we used to use, back at a previous company, to like write a daily report of what you've done, which is great, but it becomes an extra bit of work at the end of the day. And it's great when everybody's on top of it, but it's so easy to fall out of this habit of doing checking in with your teammates. And so I wanted to make that process quick, as simple as almost transparent, almost like, okay, I'm leaving work, I got these things done, check, done, publish. So I save that with the team. So the idea is, you basically add those. You can add some more text if you want. If there's something you want to talk about more, you can add that. You can add an emoji to show how you're feeling for the day. So it's like, either I'm smiley or I'm frowning, I'm tired, sweat smile, all of the different emojis to basically express how your day's been in general. Share that, publish it with your team. It's viewable by the entire organization. People can react to it. They can add comments. It's to basically do an asynchronous check in with your team to show what you've been up to. Not necessarily, it's not for a synchronous like Slack or Zoom replacement. The idea is just to help your team feel more connected to each other, what other people are working on. I know being in an office that you have this like implicit knowledge of what other people might be doing or what they're working on. You can see, you can hear things. Being remote, you have zero, right? So the idea is to let you at least keep in touch with employees like that. Even if you're not necessarily on their team working with them directly, you can still be aware of how they're feeling, what they're doing. So it's this, I want to try and make this tool that can help a remote team feel more connected. So
nice.
When I realized that it was actually maybe useful, I had some friends start to play around with an early prototype back end of September, October, and everybody responded like really, really well. So much better than I had anticipated. So I'm like, okay, this actually may be a product then. This was a very early, just like, okay, it does like the very, very basics. And then I'm like, oh, hold on, this actually, people like this. Especially when I started adding the mood, being able to show how you're feeling. When I started adding that, people responded to this like, oh God, if I can show how I'm feeling, it might stop people from harassing me. Like, why isn't this done? It's like, if I'm looking like, oh God. So this idea around just sharing how you're feeling the other day, not just like, I closed these 4 tickets, but look at the other stuff that I was on 2 calls, I've been investigating this thing, I've been doing these things. Not all of them result in closing a ticket, right? So that's the general idea around it. And I've kind of reached the point now where I'm like, okay, this is actually good enough for people to use outside of my close group. So
now, is this a web application or is it a native application?
It is a web application. My intention, obviously, if people start using it, then I very much want to do a native one. But it works very well on the mobile as well. So it works well. I've also used an application that effectively packages up a web app as an installable thing. Still, it requires the web to work, but it allows it to be an installable application using Electron and stuff. And especially within an office environment, it's handy just to have an application that you can click to and use instead of just another web page. So I'm going to ship with that as well, just because it makes it a nicer experience to use when it's, an actual application like, say, for instance, Slack or Zoom or something as well. So,
right. Yeah. And right. In that scenario with a wrapper application, are those installable from the App Store on phones? Or
that's a good question. No, I haven't done it as a mobile version, just for Mac and Windows. Yeah, I think you can actually sell it as or have it as an installable App Store as well. I believe so, yeah. So that's one thing. But as far as an actual application goes, yeah, I would like to when time and resources allow. But the web is the ultimate deployment mechanism, right? I mean, this is the reason you're doing FusionCast on the web as well. Having this removing any barrier to entry. It's nice just to be able to click on a link and do your check-in. Yep. So I say the whole idea of this is to remove any excuse for not doing a check-in, right? I mean, this was the thing, it's like when we used it within other teams, it's so helpful, both as a manager and as a co-worker, knowing what your team are working on. It's one thing being a manager and assigning tickets and, kind of having a closer relationship with them, but just having this sensory extra awareness of what people are doing outside of just their prescribed work is really powerful. I've been doing remote work for most of my life, about 15 years, I think, in total. Okay. And it's that connection with people that you don't see on a daily basis is really difficult to manage long term. You have this constant underlying feeling of do they know I'm here? Is everybody okay with me? It's fine when you have a close relationship with a co-worker and a manager, but either outside of that close, you do wonder, I mean, you must feel this about other employees too, right? You're like, are they still working for us? Not actually aware what they're doing. Are they still on the team? So it's something to increase this this connection between team members and organizations is something that has long been something I wanted to improve, and it just so happened I kind of stumbled upon it by building this. It's been a long-term concern of mine with remote work. I love working remotely. It allows me to live here, right? I wouldn't have been able to move here if I hadn't been able to continue remote working. So it's been a huge thing in my life, and any chance to make it better is good for me. I'm happy with that.
Awesome. That sounds great. So how's it going now? What stage are you at?
I'm at that stage where I want to bring on additional users outside of my close, very early trial users. I'm at that stage now where I'm finding the bugs that I thought were not there. I'm like, I can let people use this right now. And so, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to finish that first. When you're so, this well, right? When you're so close and so intertwined with a product, it just becomes did I finish that? I know I worked on it. Did I actually finish that off? Oh, apparently not. Yeah. Or things that you just, you worked on it, but it was 3 months ago and other things have changed around it and it still passes tests, but it just doesn't work well in the context that you originally wrote it in. So I'm in that phase of okay, what do I need to absolutely finish before I can, let 10 people in, 10 teams in and start to use it without the obvious feedback of well, this doesn't work. Yeah, I know it doesn't work. I think we talked before about, what is useful feedback, and you want to get to past that point of the feedback they're giving you is the obvious layer, outer layer stuff. You want feedback that's just a little bit deeper. So I'm trying to remove that before letting other people on seriously. So I was hoping to get it done last week, but it more likely is next week. So but I can taste it. It's this close to letting other people on board now. So it's
you're almost there. You're almost there.
It's that that final 90%, right?
The final 10% that takes 90% of the time.
Exactly. So it's been a fun process. So the fun thing for me as well is I started it here, and I left actually salaried job around about last March, beginning of Corona time, and so I started freelancing, doing client work, and took on a big client. So this has been bootstrapped and created as I had to start a company here as well. So going through the process of starting a company in Japan has been interesting. So yeah, this is like a constant that will probably come up, is just my fun of battling the system.
Yeah,
of
navigating
of being a foreigner in the
stuff.
Japanese business architecture, which is challenging sometimes.
Yeah. Quite challenging, I imagine. Yeah,
It's interesting. It's all a learning process.
it's a different culture, obviously,
Sure.
a different way of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to navigate all that and learn about that. And
Exactly. You know, I
yeah,
want to sell to local companies as much as internationally as well, because this is my my adopted home, and I want to try to improve working life here as much as I want to improve it everywhere, right? So the product
yeah.
is in Japanese and English. I'm launching with English. Japanese is in progress, but yeah, there's only so many hours in the day, so I decided to prioritize one. But that will be an interesting experience as well, onboarding Japanese customers.
Nice. Yeah, that's I mean that's a similar experience with myself building FusionCast, bootstrapping it and just working on it on my spare time. And yeah, it's
I remember having spare time once.
yeah, right.
We brought this upon ourselves. You have no one else to blame but yourself. That's what I
right.
keep telling myself.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always a challenge, but a fun experience at the same time.
So yeah, you can go and register for FusionCast as I want to know when it's launched, right? And get on your beta list, correct?
Yes.
What's the URL?
Yes. Fusioncast.fm.
That's a great domain.
Yeah. Fusioncast.fm is the marketing site. Right now, I'm in private beta mode, so it's only a limited set of users, just people that I know that are in the podcasting space that are interested in trying it out and checking it out and providing feedback. Those are the ones that I'm onboarding at the moment. And so far, I've only done about 4 demos, and I'm working on some of that feedback that I already got from those.
Yeah.
All right. Your application's URL is .plan.io.
.plan.io. Yeah. So it's
.plan.io.
you can get on my list of wannabe test subjects.
All right. Do you already have a sign up form, and people can sign up already?
They can not. They can add the URL, add their email address, but yeah, I've got a list of picked a bunch of people that I think would be very good testers from that list. So I'm going to start reaching out to them next week with a okay. I want to do something like an onboarding. Maybe I don't need quite as main an onboarding session as you have, but yeah, definitely I'd like to talk them through the things just to get their initial feedback more than anything, right? As I said, I remember when I first had somebody use a very early version and they got the concept, they got the idea, but there's when you type in a task on one of your check-ins, the obvious thing for me was to just hit return after you type it in, you hit return, it saves it, right? And they typed it in and they're like, how do I save it? And I'm like, you hit return. They're like, but where's the save button? I'm like, you what? And so I added a save button. It's a signal rather than an actual functionality that is necessary. So small things like that I want to try and catch from people more than anything. That feedback is crazy, right? It's just so, again, you're so close to it that it's just impossible to even see that. You just can't.
Yeah, you don't see it. It becomes a tunnel vision kind of thing. I've shared with you how I've done a couple of sessions with my wife where she comes in front of the product and she starts using it and she starts clicking around and doing things and talking out loud her thought process. And those have been so useful because she points out a lot of stuff that I didn't even think about and uncovers things that, so every time we've done that, it's resulted in the product becoming so much better.
Yeah. One of the crazy things about going through this pre-launch slash launch processes, just how much people are willing to give you, right, in terms of feedback. I didn't realize, I almost expected it to be a challenge to get, like how do you feel about this? But the amount of like, oh, we should do this, I should do this as well, are like, where's the... I'm like, whoa, hold on. There's too many. And it's amazing just how much people are willing to share with just their initial impressions, their wants, their ideas about it. It's been really cool and kind of intimidating as well, because you're like, oh my God, I've got like there's so many good ideas in there that
I know.
I have to try and deal with that now.
And the list keeps growing and getting longer.
I mean, maybe it's slightly different for yours, because I think, yours has a very almost understood context, right? You're recording a conversation, and there's only so many things that you can do within that. I mean, there's nice ideas, like the thing we mentioned about markers, but mine, it's the interesting thing I've noticed is different people see it as a different tool, like completely different tool. Somebody, I was working with them on it the other day. I was showing them, demoing it to them, and they're like, that's great. I want to see effectively they were thinking of it as a historical to-do list for themselves, because you effectively check things off. You create this trail of things I've achieved. And they're like, I want to see all these analytics of how much I've done. I want to be able to and they saw it as a to-do list that they could go back through in time. And I'm like, okay, for me, that doesn't do anything. But apparently they were really excited about this. And I'm like, okay, I need to think about this. I don't know yet if that's relevant to the application, but just the fact that was their first immediate desire from it, I'm like, okay, there must be something there. So it's amazing how different people see it in wildly different ways sometimes. So
which brings up another point, though, that you have to be careful with that feedback and not try to do everything that they're saying, because this, but you have to keep a certain focus and direction that you want to take the product in, and not diverge too much from that. And so there's that danger of it becoming something completely different, but which wouldn't necessarily be bad, on its own, but just it could become just chaos.
Yes, absolutely. Right? I think that's the thing. You just got to throw them all into the pot and be like, okay, I need to consider this. It's not like going on the list, but it's like, okay, I need to think about how would it be used in that context. What aspects of this could be beneficial to all users, and how would it fit in within the context of the application and stuff.
Yeah. And then something to keep in mind along with that is that something like that, where if someone sees the product as something completely different than how you see it, but it's still kind of related and kind of similar, you could always spawn off another product from what you've built now.
Definitely.
That addresses a different need and a different demographic.
I mean, I mean that's part, I guess, of understanding what it is we're building, right? Because there are aspects of this that I'm like, okay, this actually could work in a different way and solve a different problem. So that's gone on the list of like things to think about when I have like some brain space.
Yeah, and you can reuse a lot of the tech you've already built for it.
I mean, something that I noticed the other day that I think Adam Waltham was doing the new Tailwind, and he did a thing where it was like, his screencast and video and switching between them. And someone linked to a tool which is basically for creating that exact thing, which is me plus screencast. And it's like your tool effectively can do that, right? You can record the two streams of me and my screen at the same time. But they've obviously found a niche there that nobody else is serving. And it's like, okay, let's just like drill down on this and just focus on this one specific use case. And there's all too many ideas, not enough hours.
I know, right?
One day.
There's no shortage of ideas.
No,
for
unfortunately.
Sure.
Well, I mean, this is the interesting thing, though. It's like, I remember, when I left my previous job, and I'm okay, what the hell am I going to do? And so you've got a few rough ideas, but none of them seem like products. They seem like things you'd like to try and build, but none of them seem to have a really strong legs of being a product. The moment you start saying, okay, I'm going to try building this and see where it goes, it almost creates all of these stronger ideas from it. It's like I guess it's obvious in retrospect, right? But by trying to build one thing, all of these actual very clear things become obvious in your mind. It's like, well, actually, this is a thing, and I could build this, and it could use this, of which you couldn't see until you actually started doing the thing, right? So ideas breed ideas.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
So just build the things. Build all of them.
Just keep building. Just keep building.
Absolutely. Cool, man.
Awesome. All right. Well, this has been great. Great way to introduce ourselves and our products.
I hope I didn't.
And
I hope it's reasonably clear what we're building.
yeah, right. And if not, we'll get messages. Hopefully, people will contact us and ask questions. We're happy to answer. So we'll continue to share our journeys building our own apps, and hopefully it'll be helpful to others out there who are doing the same thing or aspiring to do the same thing. And hopefully they'll learn a thing here and there from our experiences, our mistakes. I was
going to say mostly from our mistakes and
our challenges, and hopefully the tiny wins as well. All right, Alan, your day's just getting started. My day is just coming to an end. So
I know it's always I'm kind of like blurry-eyed from just waking up, and you're like exhausted from working full day. So
I know.
It sucks for both of us.
I know, right? The wonders of the time zones and time difference. This morning I got up super early because my dog was making noise and he was restless. And when that happens, we know it's probably because he wants to go outside and he needs to potty.
Yeah.
And so, I took him outside. It was like 4:30, 5 in the morning, something like that. And sure enough, he did his thing and came back inside the house, and I was fully awake. I didn't even try going back to sleep. I just hop on the computer and just start hacking away.
There goes the day. Just right.
Yep.
We're having a bit of a slack day here because it was my son's school has I think it's graduation day for like the 6 years, so they're all the rest of the year has the day off. So he's like, let's play Fortnite. I'm like, no, I has to work. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So shall we record a little quick nugget as well? Do you want to try doing that?
Sure. Oh yeah. Before we wrap it up, let's do that.
Do you want to stop the recording and start again, just so you've got a separate? Or will that work?
Sure.
Or not?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. It was easiest for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That works.